Welcome back to the Winner's Circle, everybody. Today, I'm here with Roger from Allstate Protection. They are the guys that protect all our goodies, all our phones, our laptops and stuff. They're the latest winners in the 2026 Sustainability Awards for a program they ran with Staples. We're going to hear all about it from Roger. Roger, welcome to the show and congratulations on the award.
Pleasure to be here, Russ, and thank you. It's quite an honor to win.
Yeah, so before we get too deep into the kind of that program that was so great for sustainability and your win, tell us a little bit about Allstate Protection Plans and kind of just what you guys do and kind of an elevator pitch.
Yeah, you bet. Allstate, Russ, people, think about what they see on TV during college football games, et cetera, about like home and auto. And what people don't realize is inside of Allstate, this Allstate Protection Plans, we got a massive business. Protecting the things people use in their lives, both at home and on the go, right? So, and that's everything from mobile phones to laptops to tablets and other consumer electronics. It's also like appliances, furniture, and we protect over 200 million things in the United States across over 44 million homes. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's those protection plans that save us when we've got a cracked screen or you roll over a phone or laptop falls down or something. That's when you go like, oh, thank you. Thank you
Right?
for those insurance plans. I'm in the midst of changing phones now, and it's coming with one of those plans, and it's just such a lifesaver, especially in this day and age when we seem to churn through these devices so quickly.
And they're so expensive, and more often than not, you're on a financing plan, and so it's like, wait, I got to pay $600 on that old broken phone just for the right to
Right.
upgrade to $1,000 new phone, and suddenly, yeah, it makes it hard for people to get to that next phone.
Now you're not new to this. You spent 2 decades at T-Mobile doing this kind of same thing, right? Running device and trade-in programs and that kind of whole supply chain. That was at a massive, like giant scale as well, at T-Mobile. What did you learn there about kind of why people don't trade in their devices that brought you into this program?
Yeah, it's evolved a lot over the last decade, Russ. But I'd say one when you just go out and ask consumers, like consumers more and more saying like, I actually really care about the environment, and when I think about things like smartphones or my laptop, right? People want to do the right thing, like they actually care. And we're talking about 60-70% of people in surveys who say like, I would like to do something. But the reality, even today, is probably only about 1 out of 5 phones finds its way into a reuse program. So there's this gap. And to your point, I kind of like loosely bucket into a couple things. One is ease and convenience, right? Like people are busy in their lives. And so how do you just take friction out of the process for people? There has been historically a little bit of a trust issue. Like, hey, I got a lot of personal stuff on that device. Because these things, right? Not only is it it's my photos, it's my banking app, it's all this content. And so it's like, am I really okay handing this over to you? And that's gonna not go anywhere. And then the third is just the incentive, right? So you take friction out of the process, but like how I think the industry has been getting better and better in creating value for customers to incentivize them to want to do it. So I think those are kind of the 3 big areas that you really need to hit to get people to really enroll in it.
Now, Allstate's doing protection plans, and now in the trade-in business as well. I think there's a legacy of the trade-in business with Square Trade and everything else. We were talking about that earlier. Um, Protection plans and trade-ins feel like adjacent kind of businesses or kind of more separate businesses. When did it become obvious to you that they were more kind of actually aligned in kind of the same business?
Probably about a decade ago, back when I was at T-Mobile, and I'd say it's from 2 perspectives. Is I think people used to think about trading programs as recycling programs, but then historically the carriers, right? They always have the latest phone that's on promo, right? Here comes the Apple NPI and get your free iPhone. I think that's what that's done for consumers. Is consumers have only more recently with financing started to actually appreciate, I'll call it the value or how expensive these things are. And so the one thing I think is from the retail or the carrier operator, whoever it is, the realization that like, hey, a trade-in program will actually pay a customer like good, healthy money for bringing the phone back so that we can reuse it. That actually helps me drive my business as a retailer, right? Like I'm putting money into my customer's pocket. Fun facts I've seen from around is that usually when you kind of give money to somebody in the store, like they spend 80 cents on the dollar in the store at that moment buying other stuff. So it's the classic win-win-win. So it's a better consumer value. It helps the retailers and carriers drive more customers, more profit for their business, and you get the benefits of it's better for the environment, kind of going through it. So I think that's what I realized the connection point. And then just real quick, Russ, what I'll also say is more and more we're seeing these kind of anytime upgrade programs, which if you think about it is really the nexus of, hey, I've been protecting my phone and I traded in my phone. And now here comes an upgrade program that really starts to bring those two things together. Because it basically the return to phone is built into the product.
Well, it's interesting too. Kind of current day, current time, and current trend is Apple just announced that leasing program, right? They're moving away from kind of their financing offers into third-party leasing, and it kind of feels like that now with all these carrier phones. Is we're really just leasing them and then going to turn them in a good condition, like we would a car. We were talking about cars earlier before we got on. Why wouldn't you buy a car with 10,000 miles on it that's 3 years old? It's got 99% of its life left.
100%. And I'd say that even kind of doubles down on the concept because if there's one, I'll call it one group of parties, right? The OEMs and the phone manufacturers, Apple, Samsung, all of them, they're the ones that have maybe the most conflicts because they live on new device sales. And so the trade-in and to the extent those are getting reused, is that impacting their new phone sales? They're the ones that have probably been the slowest to adopt and fall in love with it. And yet we're seeing them do it, which I really think speaks to the broader trend.
Well, and it's interesting. The car leasing market went through this as well, and I remember Lexus actually fought it. They fought it by buying all the cars back themselves, and then
Right.
releasing or reselling them, and they just tried to corner the market, which is also very interesting. Why, this is what we want, right? As consumers, we want to know that, these devices with all sorts of nasty chemicals and everything else and take human effort and time and energy and that are worth $2,000 a year ago. We want those to go on to live somewhere. We don't want to just have that, be sunk capital, gone and flushed down the river or anything. Why is the, kind of trade-in process and, this whole industry kind of been so clunky for so long?
Uh, one I think is it's back to ease and just access. So only in the last 10 years have retailers and carriers gotten better at what I call building it into the DNA of every transaction. So most customers don't think I need to go, oh, I need to get up and drive down to, Staples or go to my carrier to trade in my phone. That's not really a thing. They're thinking I want to get a new phone. And so building into the DNA of every time you're selling a new phone or a new laptop or a new tablet is getting the associate to ask like, hey, Russ, do you want to trade in your old phone? Because it's right there. And it's now very easy as you make it part of the buy flow to just ask for the trade in and very simply be able to put in that make model and actually show like, Russ, I can give you $400 for that phone today. And I think that's one real friction point that started to go through. And then I think just generally people have gotten more and more comfortable with uh, all the all the partners like Allstate and other people who do this are actually really good at making sure that the personal data that's on there. It's been a long time, going back 15, 20 years ago, you get those news reports of people buying a new phone and all this stuff that was on it. And that's not really a thing anymore because it's gone so
It
refined.
happened to me. I bought a new phone that somebody had returned, and there were pictures on it, and it was interesting.
That
Well,
would certainly give you pause the next time somebody asks you to trade in your phone, wouldn't it?
right. Well, you mentioned that earlier, the data security issue, because it keeps showing up even in research now as kind of the top reason why people aren't taking their kind of old devices and turning them in. How did you earn trust, and how much of that is kind of a technical problem versus a communication problem?
Back in the day, it was a technical or even an operational problem. Because today, the reason we don't see that so much today is because devices go through clearing processes multiple times through the process before they go back out into another consumer's hands. I think the hardest part is you can tell people that, but I think we're all always just a little bit skeptical of when a company tells us it's going to be true. Is it really true? And this is really vital stuff. So I think that's been one where it's really just taken time and proof and evidence that, yeah, I don't have any friends and family telling me about this problem anymore. I don't hear about it in the news anymore. And I think there's just been a slow building and acceptance, which still isn't 100% to be clear, but more and more people are open to it.
Well, I think you guys have actually played a role in this too, and companies like yours, is because we've gotten familiar with kind of wiping our phones and turning them in for new phones or for credit or whatever. Whereas kind of laptops and computers, they seem to age in closets, they don't seem to go back because it's like, how do we wipe that thing? How do you know it's all done? The I guess, and, Google and Apple have done a good job of making that kind of process, as you're saying, very easy to
And
do.
And I think phones have been at the forefront of that, Russ, because if you remember
Yeah.
like 10 years ago, a lot of times the question, like, what's the condition of your phone? And it would be like, does it have a dent? And it's like, what's a dent on glass? And it's like, well, if you run your fingernail across it, does it, yeah, it's just, yeah, now it's kind of like, it's super simple. It's like, hey, Russ, does it turn on?
Yeah. Oh, I'm going through it now. Does it turn on? Does it have a cracked screen? That's all
That's
they
it.
care about. Yeah.
Right. So again,
Yeah.
that's just another example of just taking friction out of the process.
So you guys have done this with Staples now. We were talking about taking friction out of the process. Now I don't have to go online. I don't have to do any of that stuff. I can go into Staples. I think I can actually go online, get a kind of a quote, take it into a Staples, which is even better. From the retailer side, what does a partner like Staples actually need to see before they'll put, their brand on a trade-in program?
Obviously they need to see this can be a great experience for their associates in store, because it can happen in store, online, and as well for their consumers. And Staples has been a fantastic partner in terms of really wanting to be innovative. Um, Russ, I'd say the standard classic trade-in model has always been, hey, Russ, your phone is worth $400. And so I'm going to send you a kit at your home, put the phone in the kit, send it back to us. Once we receive it and verify it, then we'll give you $400 through some form or medium. And that's a rational thing to do. And and a lot of people do it, but not. I think one of the things the Staples really pushed us on, which is great when we built, which was how do we do this instantly? And so whether you go online or even if you go into the store, we now give customers the option. You can do it the standard way if you prefer that. But we also, if you're online or in store, we'll go through the same process, get to the $400, and then just say, hey, Russ, can you just give us your credit card? And we're just going to take a short-term hold on your credit card, but we will give you your money now. And you can use it as soon as we get the phone back, we'll release the hold on the credit card. And so we actually give customers the choice. It's really interesting, Russ, because I think a lot of people have opinions about what they think this is because we're all different human beings and there's different segments of people out there. Uh, but when we have done surveys, it's almost a clean 50-50 split in terms of which process people prefer. And so providing choice really kind of helps serve everybody rather than trying to make one size fits all when it doesn't really meet their needs.
It's a really smart move because we're impulsive, right? People are impulsive.
Yeah.
And I know from, selling online and back when I was selling B2B telecom online, talk about a niche market. Um, if somebody entered a form or an invitation to call them, you had, I think, about 5 minutes to actually get them. Anytime after 5 minutes, they'd moved on to something else. They didn't answer the phone. And so what you're doing here is really capturing that opportunity. The customer wants to trade in. They've got a quote, boom, now I've got a gift card in my hand. I've got 7 days to return it. It's perfect, right? It's that impulsive nature. You've closed them, it's done. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to drive in. They'll work it into their schedule. And it's just that customer kind of first thinking that I like to hear and to see, out of these nominations.
And credit to Staples, we actually launched the instant first. But then Staples and we both went in and we listened to customers and really understood that it's like, well, it shouldn't be one or the other. We thought we were doing the better thing. It was really that insight, which is like, no, both is best, and then let customers choose. So it's been fantastic that way. The other thing
Well,
I'll say
hey,
is, I
oh,
was
go
just
ahead.
going to quick, Russ. The other thing that less. It's not the only place it's happened, but it's less normal. Is the medium is like what we do is we give the customer a Staples gift card. And so when you go online and you say, hey, I want that instant, here's your credit card info. We literally email you a Staples gift card for that $400 at that moment. And so you can be in the store like that day,
Or
buying
online.
phone or online, buying a new phone or whatever else, right? It's not limited to either, right? It's not like, well, once you get to $400, you can only use it for this. It's like, knock yourself out.
No, it just makes all the sense in the world. It's just all about convenience. Now, what's interesting to me from a business perspective is you're paying before you receive the device, which means you're absorbing all the risk that the customer used to carry. We used to carry all that risk. It was, a million people carrying a little bit of risk. Now you're carrying all the risk. How did you guys have to get comfortable with that?
Uh, we just had to figure out the right process, and that credit card hold is really all that we needed. And because today, again, this is something that 10 years ago, a lot of markets, not necessarily the staple markets in Canada, but I'd say some of the US markets were very cash based economies. But today, digital payments has just become so ubiquitous that like being able to sit there and say, like, hey, just letting us do that hold, we're not actually charging the card, but it gives us the confidence that, like, if the phone never comes back, that we'll do it. There is a recourse to make sure that we don't lose money and Staples doesn't.
Yeah, it's just an interesting from the buyer's perspective. It flips the script on it because you're taking the risk, and how do you know I'm not going to cancel the card or whatever? And it's just you take the mess on, which is nice. It's so that we don't have to do it, which is great. It's
100%.
anytime a company does that, it's like a big win. What also struck me from your nomination is you went nationwide and across Canada with this and Staples instead of kind of piloting store by store. What made that possible, and how did what told you that you were tempted to do that without kind of trying it out first?
It really wasn't that big of a leap for us, and obviously working with our great partners at Staples, it was really like we do this stuff at scale today. And so while there were some new nuances, none of this wasn't something we'd done before. We were just pulling the parts together in a different way to make it a better experience for the consumers. So we had no hesitation to sit there and say, hey, once we've got it ready and the Staples employees are trained and ready to go, let's go big. And it's been great.
So on Monday mornings, you're looking at all the reports that are coming in. How do you actually measure whether a program like this is working? What are the metrics you're looking at?
Yeah, kind of back to how you integrate it. Like what we've been able to do with Staples is really kind of sit there and say, let's look at the trade-in. You can just do a trade-in, but what we're really interested to see is the trade-in volume as a proportion of the new equipment sale, whether that's a phone or a laptop, etc. So again, great partnership with Staples. We're able to align incentives to say, like, hey, if we sell 100 phones, on the 100 phones that Staples is selling, how many have an associated trade-in with it? And that's kind of what we use as a combined group to sit there and kind of drive that number north, because that's where then we know we're really serving customers best, maximizing the results for Staples and doing the best for the environment.
Yeah. What surprised you once real customers started using it? Something that maybe didn't match what you expected going in.
So the one piece is we thought we thought everyone would just love instant. And so that was probably the biggest insight, which is like a large segment of customers loved the instant. And that meant that there were people who could get instant who prior couldn't. So that we were getting new people doing trade-ins that hadn't done it before. But I think the part that we kind of learned as we did that was there's this other segment that still would prefer not, like, again, different things people worry about, like, my credit card and a hold, I'd just rather not. I'm totally comfortable just sending the phone in and give me the money when you get it back. And so I think that was the big insight, is it's not one or the other, which has been a debate that I've sat in various rooms over my 20-year career with everybody. And it
How
was
do we
so
test
great.
it? How do we test it?
Oh, we
Run
tested,
both.
right? Yeah, yeah. And we did some consumer research, and now we're proving it in the real world, which is like both give customer choice. That's the easiest way to go.
Well, it's interesting to see that. So if it's a 50-50 split, it's, that security issue is still there, even if it's just a credit card security. It's, in the back of consumers' minds.
Exactly. Exactly.
Let's talk about the sustainability aspect of this. You guys didn't just win for a great new business, process and business partnership. How do you know a traded in device generally got kind of a second life rather than just moving into, a waste pile somewhere? What does that
Yeah.
kind of chain of custody look like?
Uh, that's part of what we do. Even with the Staples program, is we take those devices back, and that's part of our role, is to make sure that they get a second life. Russ, there's a whole chain of custody of kind of like there's multiple places that it can get used, and sometimes there are very, like, we have partners who say, hey, we actually want to use some of those phones because we'd like to offer second life, right, certified pre-owned devices to give our own customers a less expensive option to get into a new phone, and we happily support that. To the extent that our partners don't have a need for it, then we typically either have other programs that we can use them in, or we'll auction them off. But then through the auction process, right, there's a process in terms of knowing who the partners are. Not anybody can get into an auction. You have to go through a process to kind of qualify. And a part of that is the environmental component, going through it. But the best part, Russ, through the whole thing is like, if you think about the auction as there's a financial incentive, like who would buy a previously loved phone for $300 just to go put it in e-waste? Like that is a massively money losing proposition. So there's a really strong economic incentive that nobody's going to buy a phone that they don't think they can monetize. And the only way to effectively monetize it is through reuse. Nobody makes money putting phones into waste
In the
scrap.
landfill. Yeah. Well, and EU is doing a lot of regulation. It's moving kind of quick. There are right to repair rules, repairability, labeling on phones and tablets. Do you see that as a tailwind for the way you've built this or a complication?
I see 100% as a tailwind. And again, there are so many. We have so many different types of people in the world. We're all so different that each of us have a very strong conviction about what we like. But as you do this and realizing the optionality is the best thing for so many different types of customers, and so there, Russ, a lot of times when I'm talking to partners, people start talking about extending the life of a device, they default to that means Russ has to hold on to his current phone longer. Right? Like, Russ can't upgrade every 2 years. Russ must now upgrade every 3 years. That's how you extend life. But I think that's a real fallacy. Is because, hey, if Russ wants a new phone after 1 year, Russ should go get a new phone after 1 year. We want to make it easy for us to trade in that phone, and we will create the second life and extend the life of that device with somebody else, and maybe even a third life and a fourth life. And as long as that product and phones are lasting longer and longer, so these lives are truly extending, it's just across multiple owners, kind of like the car example that we mentioned earlier, going through it. And so I think that mindset shift, that now just kind of real quick, bring it back. It's like, do I want to get the new phone and trade in my old phone? If there's something wrong with my phone, there's the option to just get it repaired. And for some customers, that is right. I can get that done today. I don't have to worry about migrating my data over to the new phone. I'm perfectly happy with the phone I have. I just want to get it fixed. And so I think, again, back into the ecosystem of all the options, that whole right to repair just gives consumers more freedom and flexibility. And we happily support that through our protection programs, where instead of paying a $150 deductible to get a replacement device, we'll only charge you $39 to go get it repaired. And that's great.
Yeah. Better for everybody. Yeah, I think you said it or you talked about it earlier, this kind of gap between, how many devices are made and how many are actually kind of going back. I think I saw a stat from like Counterpoint. It's nearly half. It was like 600 million kind of idle devices and only 300 and some odd thousand or 300 million that kind of got into this refurb pipeline. If you could close kind of half that gap, what would have to change in kind of our industry mindset or consumer mindset?
I think we still have to take even further steps in terms of like with the Staples program of like, hey, the concept of the instant versus the traditional method. The traditional method has gotten us this far. I think we'll unlock new people doing trade-ins, whether it's a classic trade-in or whether it's even through an early upgrade program, when they're able to kind of instantly realize the value of that. Because Russ, I think you said it earlier, right? You said, that we're all have a little bit of impulse in us. And so when you can meet that impulse with yes, then we'll do more of that. And then I think part of it is also just the ongoing consumer education. And a lot of that is I see, back to your Apple example, everybody building the trade-in into the product and making it a feature of the product and not an independent, discrete choice. I think that will also help drive that. And the more and more people see that, I think the more it just becomes natural DNA. And just like any curve, you get your early adopters and your late adopters, et cetera. But I think we'll just continue to see more and more people as we have made it easier and more natural to do those trade-ins.
Well, and it's an economic decision, as you've been talking about. There's still value left there. I think I saw another stat that was something like $91 billion of e-waste, and you think about that number, what had to go into that number, and now you've got kind of the raw materials of $91 billion of kind of the materials going into e-waste. There's an opportunity there just from a economic, let alone an environmental impact. Are those kind of the same argument now?
I think those are the same argument. The one I'd also want to add on top of that is a little bit about the affordability, right? Because I think you've seen some of the, um, um, Tim Cook, Apple CEO, was kind of warning about, chip pricing and the rare earths and all of this stuff is likely to get more expensive again. And as the new phones get more and more expensive, it's again, if the new phone is more expensive, the trade-in is going to be more valuable as well. And customers are going to want to have another financial or an additional financial incentive to do that.
Yeah, and we talked about that EU right to repair. It's really interesting because they're saying that these phones have to be, repairable, I think, for 7 years. The software is usually 7 to 10. Um, I guess that makes it fundamentally easier for you guys to refurbish these phones if needed. Do you expect that trend to come to North America? North America is generally a little bit more hands off than Europe, but maybe the consumer driving that, or maybe it's just going to come here naturally because Europe's doing it. What do you feel about that?
I do think it will come here. It's a little bit slower. I think in the United States, it's probably gonna be a little bit more of a state by state. I don't necessarily expect the federal government to kind of come in and fix it. So it'll probably be a little bit more of a patchwork quilt that builds out. The good news though is that really the OEM partners, the Samsungs and the Apples of the world, we can partner with them to kind of make them okay with it, right? And the right to repair is a good thing. But I guess in defense of my OEM partners too, it's like they're not really trying to corner the market. They're just trying to make sure that the repairs that are done on those phones are high quality repairs so that the consumers that are using the devices have a good experience. And that's not a bad intent. And so I guess the good news is like we have no problem anywhere kind of doing that today because we just go with the OEMs and work out agreements and get them comfortable that what we do is going to meet their standards. But I think then for all consumers, that then right to repair just affords them even more options. That is a fantastic.
And as you go into these big partners like you did with Staples, what's the difference between kind of a sustainability program for them that, it doesn't just give them something to put in a report, but it's one where there's, kind of associates really start to kind of take it into their culture and start to promote it.
Yeah, I think the key thing there is it's back to that win-win-win. So, right, if we can do that trade in, we create an economic incentive for the consumer. No, everybody wants to do the right thing for the environment, but Russ, it's the reality of capitalist society. It's not always the driving reason. But the real piece is in constructing these programs is that we can definitively show that these trade-in programs help create more customers for our partners and more margin for our partners like Staples. And so now the partner also has an incentive. And when a company like Staples is taking on more margin because they offer programs like this, that also allows them, sometimes it happens, depends on the partner, but they'll start to incentivize their frontline associates to actually do that, right? And that's how it becomes part of the DNA. And once it becomes part of the DNA, the incentivizing might be less critical. But the key thing is, for example, in a Staples store is being able to just make sure that the associate asks. There's no requirement to do this, but if you don't ask, you may
You
not
never
get
get it.
bought. You just need to get the ask out there. And then a lot of times consumers are like, that sounds awesome.
Well, and it's such, from a sales perspective in the sales world, it's such an easy, point to make of the sustainability aspect, the ease, the prepayment, the let's just take care of it today. It's you guys have really lined it up, and congratulations on doing this again and winning the award. It really just makes all the sense in the world. You've taken the pain out of it pretty much for everybody, so it is a win-win-win. So congratulations, Roger, and congratulations to the team.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, Russ. We're proud of it. And Staples, equally proud of it, has been a fantastic partner. And it's really exciting to do good things for customers, the environment, and the business.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it.